G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach with DR. Hope your 2021's off to a ripper of a start. For today's video, I'm going to take a look at a bloke who I think is an absolute non-negotiable must-have in our backlines going into SuperCoach 2021. He's a bloke, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I did not select him at any stage of the season last year. Absolutely killed me, and I was just playing catch up from the start. My original plan was to go a little bit cheaper in the back line and then eventually bring these blokes in when they dipped in price. But unfortunately for me, this bloke only dipped 9 grand below his original starting price. That was the lowest that he got throughout the whole year. So I was expecting to get him maybe around that 550 mark. Just couldn't do it in the end because he had such a consistent season. The bloke that I'm talking about, of course, is the seagull, Jake Lloyd. So let's have a look at why I think he's an absolute must-have going into 2021. If you didn't select the seagull last year in your starting sides, after round 1, you would have probably been giving yourself a little bit of a pat on the back because he only delivered his owners a pretty low score of 77. Certainly not something that we want from someone who we're paying over 600k for. But look at what this bad man did after round 1. He did not dip below the ton for the rest of the season. I'll say it again, did not go below 100 for the rest of the season. Talking about being ultra consistent with his scoring, some really nice scores there as well. He's got a good ceiling, 130s, a couple of 140s, a 150 there. That's absolute gold, particularly from someone who we can select as a defender. Those numbers there we'd be expecting from our uber primos in the midfield or maybe the two big boys in the ruck. But he's available as a defender, which is absolute gold. The other great thing about him is that he's extremely durable. We'll look at his games played there. 18, 20, 22, 21, 22, 22, and all 17 again last year. We don't want to be selecting those blokes that are going to have those constant injury clouds circling over their heads. And if we look at those games played, Lloyd is certainly not someone that we need to have any concerns about whether or not he's going to be playing from week to week. Let's have a look at some of the averages from last year. He was ranked number 1 for effective disposals in the league, 4th rebound 50s, 5th for metres gained. He averaged 25 disposals at a really impressive 83% kicking efficiency. And as we know, he's the kicking king in Sydney. And that's really important because the rules for scoring did change in 2019. And those players that kicked the ball out of the square were actually able to start scoring some points for doing so. A long kick to advantage was 4. Effective kicks 1, ineffective 0, and a clanger is -4. But what's really important about this stat is that in order to score points from a kick out, you must play on from the square. If you kick the ball from inside of the square, you get 0 points. And we know with Jake Lloyd that he is serial for playing on. Very, very rarely will Lloyd ever kick out the ball from inside the square. I haven't actually looked at the stats for this, but as a guess, I'd say probably at a minimum 90% of the time, this bloke will play on. Free possessions, and that's why we call him the seagull. Just loves those free chips. So, in my opinion, I think this bloke is an absolute lock. Don't pick him at your peril. I really suffered last year, and I tell you what, I'm not going to make the same mistake going into 2021. So the first player in your backline that you should be locking in is the seagull, Jake Lloyd.